Hello, friends. Welcome to episode 182 of the Nope Coach podcast, People Pleasing and the Drama Triangle. I'm your host, Suzanne Culberg. So before I dive in, I'm going to briefly give a description of the drama triangle. This is a model of dysfunctional social interactions, first introduced by Suzanne Culberg. So if you want to know more about it, Google it, the drama triangle. There is so much information about it. But if you're on YouTube, I've got a hand-drawn slide. But if you're listening in on another device, if you basically draw a triangle, and in each corner of the triangle, in one of them, you write rescuer. In another one, you write aggressor. And in the other triangle, you write victim. So the rescuer in the drama triangle is the person, I'll help you. I'll drop everything. I'm there. Otherwise known in Suze's model as the people pleaser. We can often be like, there is a difference between helping, genuinely helping somebody that is useful, and then there's dysfunctional, people-pleasing, overgiving, where we go above and beyond, where we cross our own internal boundaries and it becomes unhealthy. So on the drama triangle model, what Suzanne Culberg refers to as the rescuer, I'd also call the people pleaser. Then there is the victim, the poor me, the person who needs rescuing. And then there's the aggressor, so the person who is cast in the role of it's all your fault and doom and gloom, and that we avoid. Remembering before you dive too deep into this, that each of these roles, rescuer, aggressor, victim, is a pattern of behavior or an archetype or a part, a role that you take on. It's not all of the person. And I think this is something to remember for all of us when we identify with, our people pleaser, our rescuer, our victim, our aggressor. It's not all of us. It is a part or a pattern or an archetype, a mask that we put on in certain situations, in certain social interactions. So often when somebody is in their victim archetype or poor me or, playing that role in this model, and we are people pleasing or rescuing, I'll help you. When we stop people pleasing, people are often not pleased. They have become used to a certain interaction. They have become used to a certain response from us. So when we stop people pleasing and they are still in their victim archetype, their victim role, wearing their victim mask, often what will happen is they recast us because they are still in the triangle. They're still on the drama triangle. We may be attempting to step off it by setting boundaries, by saying no, by looking after ourselves first. So when we stop wearing the rescuer hat and the people pleaser hat, and the person in the dynamic is still wearing the victim hat, they will often recast us as the aggressor. That does not mean that we have become aggressive, but that's how we have been seen in this model. We've been shifted from the person who is the yes person, I can help you, I'll be there, I'll save you, to the person who's saying no. Then they will see us as an aggressor. You used to do this for me. You're too good for me now. I'm an imposition on you. All these sorts of things. And this is the hardest dynamic to navigate, because one of my clients said it best. Shout out to Carrie O'Brien. We were talking about villains, like the villain edit. And often you can be like, I may be a villain in your story, but I'm not a villain. That's what Carrie said, and I loved it so much. I may be a villain in your story, but I'm not a villain. So if somebody is still actively on the drama triangle, in the victim role, in the poor me role, and in the past we have been the rescuer, or as I said, the people pleaser, and we are no longer available for that. We have set some boundaries. We have been clear about our boundaries, and they are otherwise unimpressed because, if you have been getting your way with someone, even if it is dysfunctional, that has created a dynamic that they can rely on you, that they can depend on you, and you no longer do that, they will often recast you from the rescuer to the aggressor, from the people pleaser to the villain, even though you haven't done anything from your point of view, to villainize them. But from their point of view, if you were always the one to run and help and drop everything and be there, and suddenly you're saying no, they can see that as aggressive behavior. They can see that as villain behavior. I'm not sharing this to say, don't set boundaries. Hello, I'm the Nope coach. This is my jam. This is what I do. But I'm sharing this to show that this can happen. Not always. A lot of the time when you set boundaries and say no and have a new way of being, people appreciate it. People are like, oh, they're really happy for you and they really respect that. But sometimes when people are really entrenched in their victim hat, they're wearing that mask, they're sitting in that archetype, and you aren't the person who is the go-to person and drops everything and runs around for them anymore, they can, give you the villain edit and suddenly you're the aggressor. And that can be really, really hard, especially for those of us who are used to helping, who are used to dropping everything, to suddenly be on the receiving end of things like, oh, you're too good for me. And, you used to be so nice and you've changed and all these sorts of things. So I'm sharing this today so you have a bit of a model to look at this, like a lens to look at this behavior through as you start to say no, as you start to set your boundaries, as you start to look after yourself first. When you can be at times, depending on the situation, receiving these type of comments, it's like, oh, I've just been recast. I've just shifted around where I am on the drama triangle. And then there's another triangle, and I'm not going to get into it because beyond this episode, but this is the drama triangle. There's also the empowerment triangle. So another gentleman, I've got a little model for this one too that I use in my way, called, if you want to look it up, David Emerald. And he has taken Stephen Karpman's drama triangle and evolved it, or taken the concept into the empowerment triangle. And this is like a more healthy social interaction dynamic. And as we shift roles from, the rescuer often into the coach, into the support person, and the victim shifts into the creator, and the aggressor shifts into the challenger. That's a whole other model that really overlays the first one. So to sum all this up today, when you stop people pleasing, some people will not be pleased. They will react in ways like, as I said, most people happy for you, celebrating you, excited. Sometimes people will be like, oh, about time, or I've been waiting for this. But there will be some people who kind of feels like they're trying to pull you back down or drag you down. And it can be really upsetting and uncomfortable. And when we look at this, step back and look at this with compassion, if they have the victim archetype behavior on and they have been benefiting from us people pleasing, from us rescuing them, and they're not willing to shift and change at this stage, not forever, just for now, often they will recast us as the aggressor so that they can stay where they are. It doesn't mean that we are an aggressor or a villain. It's just the dynamic, the dysfunctional dynamic has changed from us being the savior to us being the villain. And just knowing that, I think a lot of the time, can be really, really helpful for us to continue to set boundaries and look after ourselves. And, self first isn't selfish. If this is something that's, piqued your interest and you want to dive into it deeper, we have a whole module where we really explore, unpack, explain this in my program, Why Wait? Depending on when you're listening to this, if you're listening to this as it goes live, thank you so much. We're currently on early bird. And if you're listening to this later, the best way, go over to my website, suzanneculberg.com. All the details of the program are there. When you join Why Wait, depending on when the live round starts, when you sign up, you get access to the initial welcome module. So you can start working through some materials to, start putting in boundaries, start saying no to others, start valuing yourself and your time much, much more. And there's also a whole host of bonus modules there. There's previous masterclasses that I've taught. There's meditations, hypnosis, time for self. As I said, self first isn't selfish. Then when the round starts, we go through each of the modules together and we have group coaching where we can really, really dive deep on each of these concepts. It's such a powerful program. Like I can't understate it. Like when you start to open your eyes to these things and realize these dynamics that you've ended up in and may have been in for quite some time, and do these tiny little shifts, often our brain will go to the worst. And today, the example of being recast from the rescuer, the people pleaser, to the aggressor or villain is a worst case scenario. It very, very rarely goes that way. Often, small, gentle, slow changes, everything just becomes so much easier. But when we do get the pushback, having the group, the YWAIT, the other participants, the coach, to help you through that, to help you navigate that dynamic, is so, so powerful. So I'd love to see you in the upcoming round. Go over to suzanneculberg.com. All the details are there. Thank you for listening. Catch you on the next one. Bye for now.